Hi gang, it's Matt with Boosted Broncos. Wanted to take you through how we do our fuel and power steering lines. I know some of you, like us, have struggled with AN6 fittings and such, getting those onto the braided stainless line. The bigger ones don't seem to be a problem because they kink, and when you're trying to manage getting them onto the nut that tightens over the insert part of the fitting. But these AN6s are a bit challenging. And so just a little bit of a trick that we've learned. I'm just gonna focus in here. And so what I do is I use a drill or an impact and the 3/4 inch socket, and I pop this in there. And then what I'll do is I've got the ends of these with a little bit of masking tape. So there's two or three wraps of the masking tape, and that's what I use before I cut them with this cable cutter. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight one, and I've had to doctor it up a bit to get it sharp enough to where you can cut and not have these fray. If they do fray past the tape, what you do is just take a pair of tin snips and just work around the outer edge of the stainless to nip off the frays. And by working around the outer edge with the snips kind of angled, you don't get those trimmed off particles that pop inside the tube. One thing that we also will do for sure before you use it is blow it out. You can also use a cutoff wheel. That works well for this as well. We tape them. We've tried that method too. I guess the downside with the cutoff wheel is you get a lot of rubber particles inside the tube. So this, using these cable cutters, you're able to snip it a bit cleaner without getting all the particles inside. But one way or another, you blow it out. It's not a bad idea for the first little bit of the use of these lines to have some kind of inline filter that's in place. So let me pause here for just a sec, and I will put one of these on, and then I'll show you the finished product. Thanks. All right, so we got all of these fittings on. One of them gave us a little bit of a challenge that had the original tape on when I had bought the roll. But yeah, just some advice. If you're putting them on with an impact or drill like that, you don't need to go super high speed. It's just the circular motion as you're pushing the end on with the short 3/4 socket there. It just helps to be able to jump over the end of the braided stainless lines where they're kind of splayed out just a little bit. So the other thing that I like to do is I've got a set of these ratcheting end wrenches. Let's see, there's my 3/4 right there. And so what I'll do is I like to lube up the end of the AN fitting. You can see it's a little glossy there on the end. So put a little bit of auto trans fluid or power steering fluid on the end, and then I'll just spin it on with my ratcheting end wrench. I've got my tubing wrench here on the end, and with that setup, I rarely, if ever, do I mar anything on one of these fittings. You don't need special tools and wrenches, just these 6-point tubing wrenches on the back end, and then something like that on the front end. You don't have to have a ratcheting end wrench. You would just have to, do a full 360 spin continuously to be able to bind those down. So let me pause this a sec and I'll show you the finished product. All right, so we just wrapped this up. My preference is to line up the hex with the top and bottom. As you can see, it's lined up there. Yeah, no real marring to the finish. I guess there's just a tiny little bit there, but nothing that would be noticed. Let me jump over here to the Bronco, and I'll just show you real quick. So on the Bronco, and again, this is one we're doing that isn't going to be super fancy. right off. We're not doing a ground off or frame off resto of it yet. So we've adapted the stock power steering to use these AN6 fittings. And then here's our let's see, this is a Gen 1 engine, so this is a Gen 1 setup. And then we mount our power steering reservoir there up a little bit higher. So, all right, that's it as far as showing you the demo on these AN6 fittings. Again, we use these for power steering, fuel, and for trans cooler. If not a full flexible braided stainless, we adapt the ends of the lines to these braided stainless. So on the fuel setup here, just as a reminder, we've got a hard line going from front to back, and then there's a short section. So you can see a little bit of that blue tape that's still underneath there. If you use the 1-inch blue tape when you're cutting in half, you'll get just a small amount that protrudes from the end, and you can use a razor blade or some other means of picking that away to where it doesn't show. But without tape, when you cut those, they're gonna fray like crazy. So you have to have some means of holding those smaller ones together, and tape tends to work pretty well. For us, we haven't had any issue with the tape reducing the ability of it to hold a sill. The braided stainless is pretty slick by itself, and so with that tape being around it, it doesn't really affect anything that we've seen. So that's it as far as AN6, the challenging braided stainless lines, and we'll be providing a few more things here in the future. Thanks, bye.